Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey, on the evening of Tuesday, April 10, 2012, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, April 5, 2012, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. Vince, could we have a roll call?
Yeah. Mr. Matesic?
Here.
Mr. Finn? Ms. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Friedman?
Here.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Here.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
Roseanne, could you lead us in the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Mitch.
Okay. No channel changing here. It's long, but there's some great stuff here. This March, Women's History Month was very busy for the Westfield chapters of Girls Learn International, an organization first founded in Westfield that gives American students a voice in the movement for universal girls' education. Participating at the Feminist Majority 25th Annual Forum and Luncheon in Washington, D.C., were Roosevelt social studies teacher Karen Lust, recognized for her 7 years of dedication to Girls Learn, and the co-president of the Roosevelt Intermediate School chapter of Girls Learn International, Isabella Gelfand. Isabella addressed the audience with her remarks covered by C-SPAN as she spoke about her chapter's work with their partner school in Afghanistan. Isabella presented Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney with an award for her dedication to ensuring equal rights for women around the world. Also for 1 week in March, high school senior Olivia Pecora and Isabella Gelfand attended the 56th session on the Commission of the Status of Women as Girls Learn International delegates. In addition to hearing speeches and meeting representatives from around the world, Olivia was asked to be a journalist and to teach girls from Africa how to use social media and technology. As such, she helped the girls write and edit their personal stories about being victims of or witnesses to human rights violations. Together, they prepared speeches that were presented at panels attended by journalists, activists, ambassadors, and community members. During the Commission on the Status of Women, Ms. Pecora was invited to speak at the League of Women Voters session, which focused on the importance of girls' involvement in politics, as well as the need for grassroots organizations like Girls Learn International. The following week, Ms. Pecora again was presented with the Outstanding Human Rights Activist Award at Kean University's 5th Annual Human Rights Conference. She shared with an audience of approximately 1,000 high school and college students her experience at the UN. She's been a member of Girls Learn International since her 6th grade year at Roosevelt Intermediate School. Isabella Gelfand was the youngest Girls Learn International delegate to the Commission on the Status of Women, and she worked with a small group of young women delegates to draft the Commission's 2012 Girls Statement, which was read on the floor of the General Assembly at the end of the conference. Isabella also participated in the Girls Caucus event, which developed advocacy points, strategies, and key language suggestions related to girls' rights. She's also a good softball player, too, by the way. But anyway, also during the Commission on the Status of Women on Thursday, March 1st, Westfield's members of Girls Learn International toured the United Nations and attended a panel discussion entitled Girls Grow, a Vital Force in Rural Economies. The panelists were thrilled to have our 23 girls in attendance, and they had our Girls Learn International chapter stand, and our girls were applauded. So congratulations, this is terrific, exciting.
I think maybe they came and did a presentation for us when the
They did last year, yeah.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
And wow, how far they've come in such a short amount of time, so congratulations. So, Celebrate Earth Week. In partnership with the Town Council and the Green Team, a spring cleanup and planting has been scheduled for Minnewaska Park on Saturday, April 21st, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The rain date is April 22nd. Individuals and organizations are encouraged to participate and bring gloves, rakes, and tools to trim shrubs and to plant. All volunteers should meet at the bandstand located in the center of the park. For more information, please call 233-0028 or email info@minnewaskinpark.org. That should be a great day.
From the high school, both the Fed Challenge team and the Euro Challenge team of Westfield High School have qualified for the semi-final round of the 2012 competitions. The Fed Challenge team is comprised of Brian Pollock, Leo Tullius, Kavita Mehta, Sam Cravo, and Mark Mizuko, who represent Westfield High School in this year's competition. Over 50 schools from the tri-state area are involved in the competition, with 12 teams qualifying for the final round, which will be reduced to 5 teams. The semifinal and final rounds will be held on Tuesday, April 24th at the New York Fed. We wish the team and their co-advisors, Sandy Ford and Tom Hornish, much success. The preliminary round in the Euro Challenge for the New York, New Jersey region was held on April 4th at Credit Suisse with 40 teams in competition. Only 10 teams from the New York, New Jersey area were selected to move on to the final competition, which includes 20 teams from 11 states across the nation. The semifinal round and finals will be held at the New York Fed Reserve Bank on April 30th. Westfield has been a semifinalist 7 of the 8 years in which the program has existed, and we wish this year's team continued success. Our Westfield High School team, and this is Euro Challenge now, consists of Will Crenshaw, Elizabeth Neelan, Nick Minona, Daniel Kuhn, and Sanjay Sujantakumar. The team is advised once again by Tom Hornish. So congratulations to our teams, and we wish them all the best of luck as they compete in their semifinal and final rounds. Once again.
Yes, I have 2 announcements. The first is from the Education Fund of Westfield, which is holding its annual wine tasting and auction fundraiser on Saturday, April 21st, 2012 at 7:30 p.m. at Echo Lake Country Club on Springfield Avenue. So please join them and enjoy a wonderful springtime evening full of great wine, food, and ambiance while supporting our children's education. The second is a message to the community. At our last Board of Education meeting, we adopted the school district's budget for 2012 to 2013. Dr. Dolan has taped a message for the community explaining the highlights of the budget. The message is posted on the district's website at www.westfieldnjk12.org and is also airing on TV 36.
What a day in Westfield High School baseball history. On April 3rd, varsity baseball coach Bob Brewster achieved his 500th win, and he did so in dramatic fashion. The 3-hour game against rival Scotch Plains went into extra innings, with Westfield scoring 6 runs in the bottom of the 10th inning with 2 outs. The opening day victory occurred on the field named after his late father, Bob Brewster Sr. Coach Brewster now joins an elite class of New Jersey baseball legends as one of only 21 coaches all time to reach this milestone. Congratulations, Coach Brewster. In more baseball news, the Sunday, April 29th varsity game against Union High School will be played at 7 p.m. at TD Bank Ballpark in Somerset. This will be a great opportunity for our team and our fans, so please come out and support the team.
So I just have a quick question. Anyone remember what was the name of the winning pitcher at that 500 game?
It is, I know the last name. I don't remember the first one.
I believe it was Evan Friedman.
Yes, it was.
Congratulations.
The Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance Program has named Roosevelt Intermediate School as a model school for its exemplary efforts to foster respect and understanding among students and throughout campus during the 2011-2012 school year. Roosevelt Intermediate School is one of 77 schools from across the country receiving the honor for encouraging Mix It Up Day. For more than a decade, Mix It Up Day has provided students across the country with an opportunity to move out of their comfort zones and connect with someone new over lunch. The Mix It Up model schools met 5 criteria. They each hosted a Mix It Up at Lunch Day in 2011. They included different members of the school's community, including cafeteria staff, aides, administrators, teachers, and students, in organizing the event. They followed up with at least 2 additional Mix It Up related programs or events on campus. They publicized Mix It Up at Lunch Day or celebrated inclusiveness with posters, announcements, and other media, and their event was seen by students and school officials as a success. Congratulations to Roosevelt Intermediate School for this national honor and for the Guidance Department for organizing this event.
And this is more news from the high school. The Westfield High School Youth and Government Club returned with an impressive array of awards from this year's conference, which was held at the State House in Trenton from March 23rd to March 25th. 450 students from more than 20 New Jersey high schools participated in the program, which is organized by the YMCA. Westfield High School brought 45 students, 2 of whom, Asher Horowitz and Samantha Gruskin, served as officers for the conference. Among the Westfield High School delegation's achievements, they received an award for outstanding delegation. 5 bills written by them were passed into law at the conference. These were written by Sarah McCutcheon, Danielle Lipschitz, Kevin Oster, Aiden Hughes, and Jennifer Mandelblatt. Westfield High School students won 5 of the 6 available awards for Outstanding Statesperson. These went to Aiden Hughes, Elizabeth Kuhn, Eric Oberman, Clara Smith, and Kevin Oster. The award for Best Judicial Brief went to the Westfield High School judicial team of David, I'm not going to get this one, Sue, I think, Isabel Smelkinson, and Alexa Derman. The award for Best Judicial Advocate went to Alexa Derman. The award for Outstanding Lobbyist went to Catherine Fox. Samantha Gruskin, Asher Horowitz, Eric Oberman, and Claire Dorwart were all elected to officer positions for next year's conference. Congratulations to our Youth and Government Club and their advisor, David De La Fera. More good news.
Great news. All right, the next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. at 302 Elm Street. With that, I will recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. So most people, I think, reading in the media have heard about the fact that New Jersey is looking to change and revamp the evaluation system for teachers and other educators in the state. And there have been a number of articles written in the last several months. And we here in Westfield have been working following what the new proposals include, and also coming up with what we think is going to be best for Westfield. So in order to talk about our work in this regard and what the requirements are going to be, I've asked Mrs. Ball, Barbara Ball, to speak to us tonight and give us a little bit of a heads up about that and a little bit of background on that.
Dr. Dolan, thank you. You are absolutely right. For the last 18 months, this topic has probably been front and center in virtually every public school system in the state of New Jersey. Just as recently as the 28th of March, Peter Schulman, who is the Chief Talent Officer for the New Jersey Department of Education, sent a letter to all of us public educators, and in it he said, "The quality of a teacher in front of the classroom is the most important school factor affecting student achievement. As we take the next step in improving educator evaluations, we need to keep a singular focus on developing a system that will provide meaningful feedback and actionable data to help all of our teachers, regardless of experience, continuously improve their practice." Governor Christie and the State Department of Education believes that there is considerable room for improvement in this area. Sometimes it feels that those of us in the arena of public education stand alone, separate from other aspects of society. So it was reassuring to discover that in corporate America, performance evaluations are under review and in need of overhaul as well. I think all of us are familiar with the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. Just last year, they conducted a broad survey that showed that while 97.2% of U.S. companies have performance evaluations, 58% of HR executives who are responsible for managing those systems would rate their own evaluation effectiveness at a C level or below. You may be familiar with Mercer Consulting in New York City. In 2008, they surveyed 350 major U.S. companies and found a significant level of dissatisfaction with performance evaluations and what they really did, and whether they showed improvement and whether they showed accountability. I think one of the most extremes is Dan Walker, who was formerly Chief Talent Officer at Apple. He was so disgruntled with the ineffectiveness of performance evaluation that he actually convinced that company to do away with performance evaluations. And he said, in part, what I have trouble with is if you want to evaluate people who populate our call centers, or if you want to evaluate our sales force, there are accountable ways to have meaningful performance evaluations. But if you want to go to our think tank, where their express responsibilities are just think, for Apple, he said, I have a hard time believing that a traditional performance evaluation is going to work. That's part of what the state of New Jersey has been talking about. Are our evaluations meaningful? Do they show accountability, and do they factor in the all-important student achievement as part of evaluations for educators? What Dr. Dolan alluded to is an evaluation system which will not go into effect statewide until the 2013-2014 school year. It doesn't mean that we just sit back and wait until 2013 for that to happen. In fact, the state has laid out very clear direction for each of us, every school district, as to what we are doing. In 2012, for that school year, 2012-13, we are mandated to make sure that we are doing tangible, consistent, measurable planning. There are a defined series of steps toward the implementation that we will take here in Westfield in 2013-14. Included within those steps are the formation of a district advisory committee. That must be in place by next November. There needs to be an adoption for us of a teacher evaluation system by January of 2013, and then preparation for implementation of that system between next January and August of 2013. We have not been standing still. We already have a district advisory committee in place, and it's not brand new. It is the district's Joint Staff Evaluation Committee, a committee of long standing in this district, which is comprised of teachers, supervisors, and administrators. That group will be the steering committee to ensure that we stay on track with the directives for implementation and that we are totally ready to go at the time that we are expected to do so. So what have we been doing recently besides meeting a lot? We have sent an impressive number of supervisors, administrators, and teachers to multiple state meetings that have been going on since September on topics such as practical application for a new evaluation system, explanations of the 4 teacher evaluation systems which are currently being piloted in the state. There aren't lots of them. There's a single one in this county, and it's Elizabeth, which is piloting one of them. And we have also brought, at no charge to the district, a consultant who 2 weeks ago came to explain one of the 4 models to us in greater detail. We currently have a respected and trusted model of evaluation. One which is clinical, one which offers the kinds of things that both corporate America, the governor, and the Department of Education say must be in place in order for a system to be effective. And that is, first, trust. By sitting down over decades with teachers, administrators, and supervisors to plan and implement an evaluation system, that trust is well embedded in this district. Second is transparency. When I did the research on corporate America and there were people dissatisfied with the performance evaluations, some of the critique was, we don't know what we're being evaluated on. It's very hard to understand. That is not the case with what we have here in Westfield. And last, what comes forth again and again is that there be meaningful two-way communication between evaluator and evaluatee. And that is in place by our system, which says that when a formal observation is conducted in this district, there must be conversation between those two people before the evaluation ever takes place. Then there's the observation itself, and then there's more conversation afterwards about what went on in that lesson before any piece of writing takes place. So the two-way communication is definitely here, alive and well in this district. So what the Joint Staff Evaluation Committee is going to work on very hard, and I suspect you're going to see me behind this microphone fairly regularly going forward, is that we do not want to totally throw away a system which has good points to it that are here in Westfield and that is unique to us. We would find it difficult to maintain just it alone and still meet the state mandate in 2013-14. So what we are continuing to do is learn, stay current on every piece of information that's coming from the state, and now it's coming with more frequency than it was before. I mentioned the message from Mr. Schulman on March 28th. Within that message, he said that we could expect to hear from the state about every month to 6 weeks going forward. We will look for that. We will continue to talk with districts where we have common regard and trust as to what their direction is, and we will keep you up to date. Please.
Thank you. And I probably just missed this, but right now there are 4 pilot programs.
There are.
And is the end goal that there'll be one program selected and every district will look the same? Or is it that there'll be core concepts and every district can build out as long as they have the core concepts?
I'm very grateful that the State Department of Education has continued to work to be more clear, because if you had asked me that question maybe even as recently as September, I would have said it looks as though the 4 systems that are being piloted in this state, and that's the Danielson model, the McCrell model, the Strong model, and the Marzano model, that one of those will bubble up to the surface and then we will all use it. And as the year has progressed, and to be candid, there have been successes and challenges with the pilots that are going on. The state has deemed that a one-size-fits-all is not the direction for this state. They also know that those 4 models, frankly, carry price tags with them, some of them pricier than others. And so what I think is terrific that the state is working on right now is providing some models that fit the directives of the state and would come to any district at no charge whatsoever. So we're definitely looking at those as well.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That's very good. The District Advisory Committee, is that just staff when it's officially formulated in November? Or
No.
are there community members, are there board members, are there
Thank
other
you.
people included?
It can absolutely be our Joint Staff Evaluation Committee as its core. But to fit the state directive, we must have minimally a board member and a parent join us in order to represent all parts of the community. We already have teachers, administrators, and also supervisors. Those other 2 pieces must join us. So we must have that in place by November.
Thank you.
Anyone? All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Move on to the minutes. Ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meetings held on March 13th, 2012, March 20th, 2012, and the private minutes of March 13th, 2012, and March 20th, 2012.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, comments on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Abstained? All right. Personnel. Jane?
Okay, I would like to ask for the board's approval of personnel items number 1 through 11.
Second.
Questions or anything? And if not, I will turn it over to Dr. Dolan. We do have a retirement.
We do. Tonight I'm announcing the retirement of a very familiar face at Wilson School, and that is the face of our custodian, Sal Chicalone. Sal has worked at both Washington and Wilson schools since he entered the district in 2004. He's known for his positive relationships with students, with staff, and with parents. He pays attention to detail, is flexible, and always goes the extra mile to make sure that the school is a clean, safe, and welcoming environment for students, and we certainly wish Sal well in his retirement.
Vince?
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
All right. Facilities. Jane?
Looks like we have something under facilities tonight as well. So I would like to ask for the board's approval of facility items number 1 and 2.
Second.
Questions or comments on those? I guess I would just point out, number 1 is the replacing a portion of the Edison windows. That would be the final piece, as we have discussed several times, complete the window replacement at Edison. And also, we had already discussed the bathrooms and replacing the boilers at Franklin and McKinley, which I believe will be done this summer.
Correct.
Okay.
And Vince, will all of that work be done this summer? The Edison work as well?
The boilers will probably spill into September. By October 15th, they must be fully operational.
Right.
And that will happen, but most likely it will spill into September.
And the windows in the bathrooms?
The windows and bathrooms should be done by September 1.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right, Vince?
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
Long-range planning?
No report.
All right. Policies, Roseanne?
All right. I would like to ask the board to approve for final reading, policy 121220, policy 1230, policy 1530, policy 6230, policy 6470, and policy 7410.
Second.
I had just one question on the smoking policy.
Oh, we're just going to do the final
Oh, sorry.
reading first, then we'll do that.
Okay.
So Vince, can we vote on the final reading?
Sure. Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
Now I would like to move that the board approve for first reading the following policies: 3125, 5533, 7434, and 7436.
Second.
And now I'd like to open it up for discussion.
Okay. Is there a separate policy on teachers smoking?
Yes, well,
Or-
the 7434 policy is smoking on school grounds. And
Okay.
that covers anyone.
Okay. Oh,
And
right,
then there's the pupil smoking.
Mhm.
And is there one that's specific to teachers or
I-
staff?
We didn't look at it. I believe it's addressed in one of them. I'm not sure it has the exact same title or number, but yes.
Right. So there is the teachers certainly fall under the 7434.
Yes.
I'm not sure if there is another policy that is specific to teachers. Yes.
Just a question on 7434, smoking on school grounds. The definition of where smoking is prohibited is different than with pupils. The difference being 7434 is limited to school grounds, whereas pupils extend to school functions, board-sponsored functions, which could be off school grounds, and also transportation to school-sponsored functions. I didn't know if that was intentional, or I didn't know why they wouldn't just be the same. And similarly, the definition of smoking between the two was slightly different.
The definition of smoking, first of all, I think I would argue they should be exactly the same. We can take a look at that. And
I read them, I thought they were the same.
It's the use of smokeless tobacco, snuff, etc. It's not in the 7434.
Right.
Right. So I think that might be a worthwhile
Okay.
addition, because we added that to the people
Yes, we
smoking
did.
one, so it would make sense to add it to the smoking on school grounds.
I thought in the 7430, we just thought that contains tobacco was sufficient enough for the
Yeah.
7434, but we can add it.
I think you're right, that's exactly what we thought.
Okay. And with students, we felt we needed to specify that more specifically, but we can make it exactly the same, that's fine. And then, so what do people feel about the 7434, that it doesn't say on, at all events and transportation to and from events? Is it really not to the person?
I think you might have to check on the law on that, because we actually had a brief discussion last night at the rec commission meeting as far as, there's a group looking to have a smoke-free environment in the parks. And there may be, you may not be able to, if it's not on school property, you may not be able to put that into a school policy.
Yeah, I do think that's the reason for the difference in the wording. We can check the law to make sure.
But we can certainly, on school buses, for example, there's no smoking period on buses, right?
Right.
I mean, that's state law, okay, I would guess, okay.
And actually, the definition for school grounds, the third paragraph on policy 7434, it really is rather all-inclusive, I would say. It was just about everything.
Right, the definition
Right.
of school grounds was the same as pupil smoking.
Right.
But then they went on to differ in application.
True.
Is there some reason
That
why
might be the-
you didn't want to specify that smoking would be prohibited by anyone on school grounds and at events? Well, I guess we can't
Well, that's what Jane just mentioned, that,
regulate away from the
Right.
school.
Right. On school grounds, we can, but not away. Other than for students we can. So there is that one difference between the students and the adults.
so are there any other comments on the 5533 and 7434, the smoking policies? There was one comment, the last paragraph of 5533, pupil smoking. The first sentence, the board directs that the health curriculum include instruction in the potential hazards of smoking instead of the use of tobacco, because smoking was defined up earlier in the policy, so just to make it more clear, and use the same language throughout the policy. That was suggested. So we good with those two? Are there any other comments for 3125? I have, yeah, yes, Ginny?
Actually, I'm sorry, going back to smoking
Okay,
on school grounds
yes,
has a final provision for departure and removal of an individual. Pupil smoking has no such disciplinary action or outcome, consequence.
In the regulation for pupil smoking, it talks about implementing the code of conduct. But maybe it's in the regulation as opposed to.
But that's practice, which is not a policy statement on our behalf of what our expectations are. Did the committee consider the difference?
no.
I think we
I don't
addressed,
recall
I
that.
think we addressed it as a code of conduct issue. Now, maybe that's not right, but that's what we talked about it as code of
Should that be
conduct.
stated in the policy? Just asking. That in accordance, that discipline would be undertaken or whatever, in accordance with the code of conduct.
Can't hurt.
Well, there's no directive
Yeah.
that discipline is required.
I'm completely fine with moving that paragraph, or copying that paragraph over to pupil smoking.
I think I would suggest copying it.
Yeah.
Not moving it.
Yeah.
Right, I didn't mean moving.
Okay.
And then if you want a reference to the code of conduct. I would- I
Oh,
think-
in the policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you say a reference to the code of conduct, do you mean the number? No.
The name and the well, yeah. The code of conduct as a code. The
Right.
discipline will be meted or will be determined based on
Right.
code of conduct policy number 5120, whatever it is.
Just pick up C1 from the regs.
Right.
That's what it says.
Right,
Just move that up.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 3125, employment of teaching staff members. On page 2 of 3, the second to last paragraph, the first sentence was, well, it's suggested that we make it more clear, and it will read, unless people disagree, individuals who provide volunteer teaching services on an intermittent basis are not subject to this criminal history record information requirement.
And I think the reason for that suggestion was, when we have a volunteer coach, which I believe we even have one on tonight's agenda, those individuals do go through a criminal history background check. However, you know how many parents come in to help us in the schools, and they may come in to help with a nutrition lesson or a party or a lesson on art, whatever it may be. I don't know that we want to have all of those individuals have a criminal history check. And anytime those parents are in the room, the teachers are in the room as well. It's not as though those individuals have sole control over students. They don't. So that's why I wanted to make it clear in that.
Do we have a separate policy on volunteering? Volunteer teaching or volunteer?
I think they're referenced. I don't remember one
I don't remember
specifically. Yeah, I don't remember one specifically called that, certainly. But they are referenced in a few other policies.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely referenced in the community section of
Yes,
policies,
yes.
but I'll look.
It's just interesting that it would get embedded in different policies, this one being employment, because volunteering is not employment.
Right, and I think it's just because because criminal history checks are such a part of
Yeah.
employment, right?
Any other comments? Okay, and then there was one minor suggestion for 7436, which was to add in the last sentence, a pupil or employee who violates this policy will also be treated in accordance with law and policy numbers 3218. So there was an also was inserted, the last sentence of 7436.
Last
Oh, is
sentence
it
on the
not-
first
sorry,
page,
the
you mean?
last sentence
Yes.
on the first page.
On the first page, yes.
Try it again, please, for me.
The last sentence on the first page, a pupil or employee who violates this policy will also be treated in accordance with law and policy numbers.
Also in addition to whom?
In addition to this particular policy. So this policy prescribes consequences, but then the last sentence says the treatment will be pursuant to those other policies.
As well.
Yes? Okay.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
All right. Curriculum, instruction, and programs. Ann.
No report tonight.
All right, finance. I'd ask the board to consider finance motions 1 through 4.
Second.
And I would like to point out finance motion number 1, the Morris County Cooperative. So this is a continuing affiliation with a cooperative as one of the ways we try to save money and reserve our resources in the district. We've used them in the past successfully, whether it be paving or other projects. I'd also call out item number 4, the acceptance of a gift from the Sean McDonald family of a Bach trumpet, ProTech case, and accessories for the Fine Arts Department. We thank you very much for that. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
I ask the board to note the notes for the record and then move to legislation.
Yes. Ginny and I attended the Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting on March 28th. Usually these meetings are very informative, but this one was actually exciting. There was an air of an excitement, and I think that was due to the fact that there are some changes on the horizon, both in tenure reform and in the evaluation system that Barbara talked about tonight. Lynn Strickland, who is the executive director, gave a report on the tenure reform bill that was discussed in the Senate hearings a month or so ago. The bill is sponsored by Senator Therese Ruiz, who is the Senate Education Committee Chair, and is entitled the Teacher Effectiveness and Accountability for Children of New Jersey Act, or TEACH-NJ. There is no companion bill currently in the Assembly, and in order for the bill to pass and become a law, it has to have an identical bill in the Assembly. So to quote Lynn, the bill is moving very slowly. However, everyone does expect it to move sometime in the spring. The legislature does not typically meet to discuss non-budget items during the budget season, so probably there will be nothing else on this until late May or June. That said, this gives us an opportunity to add our voice to the mix as the process continues. According to an interview in today's Star-Ledger, Governor Christie feels that tenure reform is probably the most important issue of the coming year, so it is pretty safe to assume that some version of Ruiz's bill will be debated late in the spring. There are a number of provisions in the bill that Dr. Dolan and the Legislation Committee of the Board find troubling, and so we are now in the process of drafting a letter to Senator Ruiz so that as the bill moves forward, we will have a voice. As soon as the letter is ready, we will share it with the full board and discuss the points in the bill that the administration finds troubling. In addition, Lynn Strickland suggested that Dr. Dolan and the Legislation Committee actually meet with Senator Ruiz, obviously, Rich, if you want to come, and to discuss the bill and to really get her ideas on the stipulations that we find troubling and get her point of view on that, and so that, again, we can have our voice heard. At the Garden State meeting, it became apparent that the overarching problem with the bill is that it tries to create one system of rules that will work in every type of district, and that is a problem. The Garden State Coalition, which is comprised of board members and superintendents from high-performing districts such as ours, are developing a position paper on Teach NJ that will be made public at the annual meeting of the Garden State Coalition on May 30th. Acting Commissioner Cerf will be speaking at the meeting, and I hope he will stay to hear the group's concerns after he speaks. I think he's going to be in and out, though. So the position paper will be sent to him and the governor and key legislators. So the Legislation Committee is meeting again on Thursday. We will be reviewing a draft of the letter, and we will be forwarding that to the full board for discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay?
Any questions? Comments? All right. Unfinished business. New business.
The parking date, the meeting?
18.
Sure. The, let's get this right. The, you're talking about the Westfield High School traffic presentation?
Yeah, maybe just a reminder on that.
Sure, so just a reminder, there'll be a joint presentation by the Town Council and the Westfield Board of Education with regard to Westfield High School parking concerns and safety concerns around Edison School. And that will be on Wednesday, April 18th at 7:30 in Westfield High School Cafeteria B. Thank you. Ad hoc committee reports.
Nothing specific to report. We will be meeting tomorrow morning and hopefully reporting out, I believe, at our next meeting on a few things.
Liaison reports. Jane.
I attended the rec commission meeting last night, and the news coming out of there would be Gumpert Field is just about ready. Looks fabulous, and opening day, I believe, is April 14th. The pool registration is going on, so if you haven't gotten your registration, you can get it in quick. And everyone should have received information regarding the programs happening this summer, and they're already starting to get a lot of positive interest in some programs happening this summer as well. So check out those brochures. Tennis being one of the most popular ones, filling up quickly, as well as many of the other ones. So they're all great programs. And that's about it.
Thank you. Jane?
I attended 2 meetings of the Union County Ed Services Commission on April 4th. Of most interest, I gave some policies to Roseanne as models, or at least interest as to changes that Union County Ed Services has made to their policies based on either statute or implications of other needs, specifically use of facilities, how they're tiering their cost structure for different community groups to use their facilities for other than instructional purposes. So I'm happy to pass those along. And on March 28th, I attended Tri-County Boards of Education, and I sent to the board information I had received from this group, especially a survey including tax levy rate increases, negotiation status from the districts that had reported, and their district positions on teacher evaluations. I thought it was, as always, informative as who's doing what negotiating right now. It's an opportunity to talk about positions that different districts are taking and where they are in their process. I appreciate that the group continues to meet. Very beneficial for all of us. There were about 10 districts represented, so good representative group.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I then recognize the public for questions and/or comments. Seeing no one come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing personnel, litigation, or negotiations, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained?
Good job.